This week we're going to talk about personnel, hiring, training, our personnel and our staff. I think personnel is the most challenging aspect of ministry. It demands a lot of work and care and attention, and yet it is so important. The people who serve with us on the staff of the church are at the forefront of everything about the ministry. That team of people works with the pastor to shape and to sculpt the direction and the dynamics of the church in every aspect of his ministry. And it raises a lot of questions. Who do we hire? How do we find quality people? There's a lot of ins and outs to personnel. This is a big question that we all ask, certainly as pastors. Who do we hire? And sometimes when we're starting off and our church is growing and we feel the need to hire people, it's a tendency to just hire a position because we see other churches having those positions. How do we know what pastor to hire? How do we know the next staff person to bring on to the church? Well, there are a couple of things that you have to ask yourself. One, what is the vision of your church? We started this training with vision and mission. Everything you do in your church has to help you fulfill that vision. That's why vision is so important, because it tells you what to do and it tells you what not to do. So you have to ask yourself, well, here's the vision of our church. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Now, we need to hire people that help us reach that goal and accomplish the objectives we set out. So the vision of the church itself will help you begin to focus on the next staff person or persons that you want to hire. This is what's called outcome-based thinking. A question I get asked a lot as a minister, I think all pastors do, by people, especially young people come to the church, they'll say, what college should I go to? What should I study? What university should I attend? And I always say, well, what do you want to do with your degree? What kind of job do you want? Because your career goal is what tells you what kind of education you need and what school you should attend. So they're focusing on the process of education when they should be focused on the outcome goal. See, so what pastor should I hire? The bigger question is, what are you trying to achieve in your church? Once you know the outcome, then that will help you determine the person, the pastor, the director, the minister that you need to hire. You say, this is what I want to accomplish. Now I'm going to go back out and find me a person or a team of people that help me accomplish that goal. Second of all, we can look at what are the current needs of the church and what are the future goals of the church. Your church is growing, your nursery's overflowing, and you don't have enough space for children. So you tell me, who should you hire, right? You should be hiring a first-class children's minister who has experience and knowledge and vision, because you always want to grow something in the church that shows signs of growth. You want to enhance the things that are working, pour more money and effort into the things that are naturally working. So always address the current needs of the church first before you consider the future goals of the church. You've got to take care of your home, of your core, of your center. Your infrastructure is more important than your outreach. I've had pastors say they're going to hire a missions pastor. They don't have a children's ministry yet. They don't have a youth ministry yet because they care about the world. Well, they're not going to have a church left to care about the world if they don't take care of it. You always build from the inside out. You take care of what's at home, and you take care of your children above all things. You start with, they're the most important people in our church, the children and the young people. We have a responsibility to care for them, to raise up the next generation. You say, I need an associate pastor to help me preach. No, you don't. You just need to preach as much as you can, wear yourself out. You need to hire somebody first to help with the children, the families. Our children are priority number one. I've seen churches that want to build a new sanctuary, and their children's facilities and the family ministries is so outdated and is no longer adequate. The sanctuary is the least important building on a campus. The most important building is the nursery, and then the care for children and the care for our teenagers and our students. So you have to look at what are the current needs of the church. What are your goals? But you've got to ask yourself, where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish and what are we trying to produce? And make sure that you're always hiring first until your church is completely strong in every area of ministry in that local church. You're not ready to begin to think about outreach. If you do too much outreach without a strong church, it'll all collapse. It won't have the foundation. So you always hire, first of all, to build a strong, vibrant church. And outreach will naturally flow out of that. Well, when it comes to actually hiring a person and going through some specifics, it's very important that you develop good, consistent, written policies and procedures on hiring people in your church. Those policies need to be developed with your team of leaders, and you need to follow those, improve them from time to time when you think it's time to improve it. But you need a consistent, standard way of hiring every employee. It starts with a search, which you could search, internally. You could let the word be known internally in your church. You could hire a consultant, a headhunter, to search around the country for certain positions for you. But you go on a search first of all, and you kind of want some diversity. I've seen pastors say, well, I'm only going to hire within the church. Why would you do that? You're trying to hire the most talented people. They may or may not be in your church. There are benefits to hiring people in the church. They grow up in the ministry. But then there is also the backside of that they grew up in the ministry. So they're not creative. They've not been in another environment. When you bring people in from other environments, you bring in another creative element and a creative edge. So you can have a blend of maybe there are people qualified in your church that answer the call, but you should always be willing to look outside and have several candidates and spend some time searching and give the Lord time to work and give Him time to work in your heart to bring about the best people for you. When it comes time to hire them, you need an interview. And that interview could be formal, it could be informal. When I interview people, only at the pastoral level or the executive level, I just have a personal conversation with them. And one of the questions I like to ask them is, why would you like to work at Mount Perrin? Why would you want to be a part of our ministry? What's in your heart? What's in your passion? What are your talents and abilities? What are you good at? What are your goals in life? For me, it's more of an informal time of getting to know the person and just seeing whether or not they fit and really seeing how I feel in their presence. Because I'm more of an intuitive person than an analytical person. And you may be analytical. You have a form that they fill out, and that helps you. But you need to find a way in the interview process to get a feel for the person and begin to objectively see whether or not they have the talents and abilities, and also at an intuitive level, whether or not they share the vision, whether or not they're excited about working there, and how you feel in their presence and how they feel in your presence. And then you need an orientation time. When it comes to hiring them, they need a written job description. It needs to be shown to them. You need to review it with them in writing, and then ask them, is there anything they would like to change about it? Always give a person input in their job description. This is the basic job description we have. Is there anything you'd like to add or delete that you're not comfortable with? This goes back into making sure that people are doing every day what they enjoy doing and what they feel that they're best at doing. So it's very important to let them modify that job description in some way, that they also have a buy-in, that just being told what to do. It gives people a sense of being valued by us when they even have a buy-in on their job description. And then you should have an official letter of employment that I do for every employee of Mount Perrin, even the ones that are hired under every other minister that we have and the departments that we have. I'm the one that issues the letter. I want to welcome you to our team. I'm here to serve you any way I can. Everybody gets an official letter of employment. They know they're part of the team. And we have an orientation, not just to the ministry and personnel procedures. We have an orientation that they go through about the church and about Mount Perrin and our beliefs and our values, so that they begin to feel that they're part of the church here and part of what the kingdom of God is doing here and not just working a job. But those things cannot be handled individually. You need a written, stated process that you go interview, present the job description, go through the hiring procedures, discussing the compensation package. Whoever does that for you, you may do it yourself. You may have someone that discusses that with them at the compensation package. But you need a consistent, written, developed process of hiring all new employees that everybody goes through. Personnel is so important to continue to develop the staff. Regular meetings, and I don't think we should have too many meetings. We don't need to be going from meeting to meeting. Meetings should be short. They should be kept to a minimum. They should always have a written agenda, and the person leading that meeting should always keep moving to the next item, making sure that things progress. An hour meeting is plenty. Sometimes a 30-minute meeting is great. Setting limits on meetings is very, very positive and very, very productive. Taking a staff retreat, having a worship time together, celebrating Holy Communion together. These are things that we do and that are very healthy and very helpful for a church staff to grow together, to feel like they are a team. When you do your annual plan every year, you want to have all your meetings planned out. That sometimes they get moved because of schedules. The whole team needs to say, we're having these meetings on these days. And the more routine they are, like on the first Tuesday or the first Thursday, that they know that's consistent, people get used to that. You can take a month off in the summer. We do that, where there's no meetings held in July, for example, no meetings held in December. You can space it out that way. A total staff lunch is a great way to develop the staff. Don't have an agenda, don't have a teaching, bring them together, thank them for their service, and take them to a place that they like to go to. There are a couple of places I take our total staff in Atlanta, and I can never change it. Anytime I've even thought about, well, everybody's getting bored with it, I always hear the feedback, everybody loves going there. Those are the kind of things, they're small things, but they really help build a team and help strengthen your staff. The most difficult and unfortunate part of personnel is termination. And it happens for a number of reasons. But when it comes time to end a person's employment at the church, no matter what the reason for that is, there are several things to consider. First of all, it's best to come to a mutual understanding if you can. Firing people is a very negative thing, very painful thing, and it should only be in an extreme. It also sends ripples down through the organizational structure. It has kind of a depressing effect on everybody, although that sometimes is the only way out in a situation. That might be extreme, but that should be an extreme measure in an extreme circumstance. It's best to come to mutual understanding. Sit down with a person and talk to them about where they are, what's going on. Maybe you feel like the church is going to go a new direction now. Sometimes a job that we've hired in the church, we no longer need that job, no longer need that position, and the person, maybe you can offer them a different job. They may or may not take that, and that's very difficult for some people. Other people can embrace it with joy. Coming to a mutual understanding that it's been a great time together and we want to help you in your next transition is the best way when it comes to separating employment. Always try to find a mutual understanding. Make sure that you document everything. You should have, there are written policies, there are written forms that employees can read at the end that states the terms of the termination, a severance package. Always take care of people financially. You'll never go wrong taking care of them for a few extra months. It's always better to be merciful than to be rigid. Make sure that people aren't hurt, that if you have to help them with their health care for a while, make sure that you help people in the transition, because they'll speak well of you. They'll speak well of the church. Maybe leaving is a difficult thing, but you want them to leave knowing that they're loved, that they're cared for, and the church is taking care of them. And I've always gone the extra mile when it comes to making sure that even the people that leave, even if they weren't doing the best job, I don't want them to be hurt. I want them to be cared for. We want to help them in the transition to the next place, because we always want people speaking well. We represent Jesus. We are to treat each other, to love each other, to pray for each other, to encourage each other, the way the Lord takes care of us and treats us. And God is merciful, and all of us are glad God is merciful. We need to extend that same level of mercy, even if it's a difficult situation, if you're upset. James 2:13 says, mercy triumphs over judgment. And that scripture has tremendous power when it comes in termination or ending employment, to make sure that we're kind and merciful and we're helping people in their transition. And make sure that everything is documented, that even the severance package and the termination agreement, you can get a copy of a termination agreement, one that's comfortable for you and your church. Make sure that you or the supervisor in charge and the employee signs that, so that there's no misunderstanding about the rules and the regulations and the procedures of both hiring and evaluating and termination.